And hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Podcaster Nation. And I say welcome back because I know you just listened to one of our last episodes and you were so hungry for more that you came back for another helping. This is the podcast where the rising tide raises all ships. This is the podcast that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters. And that's right. You guessed it. It's done by podcasters. And my guest today, wait, hold it, wait, is a podcaster, among other things. So, uh, she's bursting over here. As we get rolling, I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the support that you always give us. Thank you for the DMs. If you have not joined our private group at the Podcaster Nation on Facebook, it's free. Sign up. We let you in. It's for podcasters who want to network and post their stuff and get some help, whatever it is. Join it. Okay, the link's in the show notes. Before I lose this person, I'm going to go ahead and get her on here. Please welcome to our show the host of the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast, a certified epigenetics human performance coach. Welcome, Susan Robbins. Susan, how you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Rory. I'm excited to be here, obviously.
I can't tell. I can't tell. I love it. I love your energy. Folks, I got to tell you a little behind the scenes. We always do a pre-interview. If you haven't been on my show yet, we always, talk for a couple minutes before the interview. This woman's been bursting with energy since she came on Zoom. And I love it. I mean, you're short-circuiting the program at this point because you're just like boom, boom, boom. And I love it.
See, it's genetically how I'm created, though,
That's,
to be thrown out of a cannon or shot out of a cannon in the morning, but 7 o'clock at night, I'm not going to be like this.
yeah. Okay. God,
So
I don't
take
know
it
if I believe
now.
you. I really don't know if I buy that, to be honest. I went back and forth with you in the evening on just in messages, and you were blowing it up. So no, 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 no. All right, now I know that there's people out there who are going, all right, epigenetics. What the heck is that? What's a certified epigenetics human performance coach? What does that mean? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Just give us the broad scope. What is
The
this
cliff
about?
notes.
Yeah, what is it about? What do you do? I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people who are doing this or involved in this and don't even realize that that's the word that they're involved with. But go ahead and just tell us, hey, who's Susan and what's this all about?
Sure. So epigenetics, put pretty simply here. And my podcast is for the layman, so I like to keep it really simple. I don't have a long attention span, so I like to make sure it's just nice and simple. But it's basically how your lifestyle and environment affect how your genes express. Our genes do not control us. We have control up to about 95% of how our DNA actually expresses. And that's what it's about. It's about the expression. So our genes are our genes, right? They're our blueprint. Uh, we are born with them, get them from mom, get them from dad, right? As soon as we're conceived, our genetics develop. And you can do a DNA test when you're born, and you don't have to do another one because it's not going to change. But the expression, how those genes are programmed, is largely determined by our lifestyle choices. Every choice matters, and our environment in which we surround ourselves. So I work with the expression of the genes. So where you say a lot of people might be involved in this, I think people think they've got some different things going on and they're biohackers and they want to try things here and there. What I'm all about is precision health. So I do DNA testing and I am a level 2 Apeiron Zoe coach. So I've been through a lot of training to understand different genetic SNPs, what they mean, and then how do we look at the expression and how do we work with the expression? Because I can tell you, we all have some really good genes and we all have some really crappy ones. And we want to dial up the really good ones. We want those to express, and the not so good, we want to dial back down. So I work with people, and as a epigenetic human performance coach, I'm really all about optimizing a client with their wellness, their overall quality of life, because as you well know, if you don't have your health, if you don't have a quality of life, why are we here? Right? Really, we're not put on this planet to just exist. We're here to thrive. And when you feel like crap, it's really hard to thrive.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have a good relationship. You can't be fully present in any area of your life, and you're not living in your full potential. So I work with the DNA. And then I found, so the DNA I found in 2019. It blew my mind, and it answered so many things with my own personal health and why I'm wired like why I'm wired like this.
Okay.
And it wasn't, it's not, I'm a retired police officer. So people would say, oh, it's because you're from Jersey and you're a cop. You're like in your face. Well, no, it's actually how I'm created. And I always apologized for it. Now I don't apologize for it. I'm real. I'm raw, right? It's how I am. And then so this other platform I use is basically like having your user manual. And it's based out of Australia. It's AI based, 15 layers of science in the algorithm. And it's where the DNA is a cheek swab and tells us exactly the DNA that you got from mom and dad, Alzheimer's propensities, cardiovascular, how do you process saturated fats? I'll bet you're drinking coffee. How do you metabolize caffeine? Is it cardioprotective to you? Is it the opposite? Because they're the two different choices, basically. So this other profile,
We're gonna have to come back to that one.
we'll go back to it.
I drink a
We'll
lot of coffee, so you need to, yeah. But go on.
We'll come back to that. So this other platform where the DNA is a cheek swab, this is actually, we do, when I onboard a client, we do measurements. We measure things like your skull, your jaw, your hands, your feet. You see, I'm a little tiny. I'm only 5'1". You know, my people populate CrossFit gyms. We're super competitive. We run on adrenaline and testosterone. That's my predominant hormones. Now, making sense why I'm like this, right? Direct. Okay. So my podcast, Raw, because I don't know what I'm going to come out with. I have a little filter. Okay. So I will be tame here, but you just never know. So, and then we do it's a very extensive health questionnaire. And it's basically the algorithm with those 15 layers of science in there saying, this is where this body needs support at this time. So it's always meeting you where you are, where your DNA is your blueprint. This is your user manual. It's how everything's currently expressing. So it'll kick out a profile by the end. My onboardings are like 90 minutes, where it'll tell us exactly the foods that are recommended for you at this time based on nutrient density, not the carb, protein, fat, BS, all this carnivore, keto, these extreme diets. And I tell you, I coached on paleo for my first 4 years as a basic health coach. And I apologize. I had to go back and apologize to clients because I didn't know that wasn't right for everybody. I thought it was right for everybody because it worked for me. That's where a lot of the experts are. Hey, it worked for me. It should be right for everybody. There's no one thing that is right for everybody because we all have individual needs based on our health, based on the predominant hormones that drive us. We're all vastly different. So this profile kicks out a food list, 25,000 recipes in there, and the ones that come up for you are only the ones recommended for you. It's all based on nutrient density. Foods that you should recommended to avoid right now. Maybe it'll exacerbate a condition you already have, bring on something where it's very predicted that this could happen with this type of person, how they're formed in the womb, and the times to train, the times to sleep, the types of training that are ideal for you, which is it's timing, chronobiology, doing what we're supposed to do at the times we're supposed to do it. That affects our hormones, that affects longevity. So I've got that component of it. So I have my blueprint, which is how I'm created. Lifestyle and environment come into it, affects how our genes are expressing. And that's my pH 360 platform I just described. That's the user manual. And then I have the option, I can also do epigenetic age testing through True Diagnostics. And that's hugely predictive as well. And it gives you an idea. Are you moving the needle? Are you aging more rapidly, which increases our risk of death and disease? Age increases the risk as it is. So we want to keep, age at a slower pace. And that's the whole thing is all of this slows. We want to slow the pace of aging. And we want to optimize this individual according to who they are, not according to an expert. So that's what I do. Long story, kind of the long story, but yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm one of the only people in the States. I'm the first one to do all of this together in the States. And I think I'm the only one doing this actively at this time.
That's amazing, to be honest with you. I'm sitting here listening, and I apologize for interrupting you a second ago. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't tell if you had said age or H, like the letter H. So I just wanted
Age.
to be sure. And then you start
Age.
talking about age, like, being
Yeah.
older. And I went, oh, you meant age. I should have just shut up and let you keep talking.
No, no, no.
But
Just say, hey, I can go and I can go fast. So stop me. Like put your hand up.
yeah,
Like I'll call on you.
hold on,
Who do
hold
I
on.
see? Rory. I see you
Yeah.
in the mirror out there.
I was gonna say, if I look distressed, right? Like, oh my God, what am I missing?
That could be the
Um,
coffee.
all right, let's cover the coffee. So you're gonna try and tell me that I'm not supposed to be drinking coffee now? Give me some really good reason why
No, I don't
I live
know.
on this stuff.
See, I don't think anybody should live on it. I mean, we need to be hydrated and caffeine will dehydrate you, right? It's, if it's excessive. But there's genes, specific genes that metabolize caffeine. And we have slow metabolizers, which a serving can be in your system up to 12 hours. That's me. I don't go near it. And it is not cardioprotective. It's actually the opposite. So I will tell people if you're going to have your caffeine, do it early in the day, stick to one. It's not going to be beneficial as far as workouts go. Then you have another that it's going to be a fast metabolizer. They're going to be up to 6 hours. Could be like 4 to 6 hours in the system. And they tend to drink more coffee, but it is also cardioprotective to this
Now, what
person.
do you mean by cardioprotective?
Protective of the ticker, more protective cardiovascular wise.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not you can find out through genetics and the testing and stuff
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
coffee
Is your
is
friend or not?
is good for your heart or bad for your heart.
Yeah, if it's beneficial to you, let's put it that way. If it's beneficial to you, or if you may have issues with it,
Okay.
where it just may not be beneficial to you. And we
All right.
don't know. We don't know.
Wow.
I mean, if you have someone that's super stressed, a body type, I mean, in my PH 360, there's 6 different health types. And there's health types that the predominant derm layer that developed in the womb is more central nervous system heavy. That's predominant. So they have a very overactive brain, overactive central nervous system. You give them things like caffeine, drugs, I mean, that's going to make them worse. It's more
Wow.
toxic to a brain and a body like that, all that stimulation. Yeah,
Okay.
so I put the two together.
So I mean,
So
this
I love
is
putting the two together.
I'm a little blown away right now. And this is awesome. I mean, I looked up what epigenetics was. I still was not ready for the answer you just gave me. Google has nothing on you. Let me just tell you that because I didn't get all that from. Now as a coach, you're saying then if I hired you to be my coach, okay,
Yeah,
you would do the cheek swab testing and do all these reports and everything else, and you'd be looking at my personal genetics.
looking at you. Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. So I do the DNA separately.
Okay,
It's on its own. That's your cheek swab. I can do that on its own. I do not coach off of DNA. I will give recommendations, make sure you're taking supplements that you need. I can look at labs. I'm not a practitioner. I don't diagnose, treat, or cure. Let me put that out there.
gotcha.
But I can look at labs if I feel, I mean, you can tell where there's support needed with a specific supplement. Okay. MTHFR, a lot of people talking about that now around methylation. I'm not again, even if I see something where some of these coaches out there say everybody needs this supplement for this, you have to look at other genetics too, because some play well together, some don't. And so it's really looking at the body as a complex system, not just one or two genes. You've got some out there saying 5 genes we're going to do 5 genetic snips and tell you everything wrong with you and fix it. I take issue with that because, again, you want to look at the body as a complex system. There's not just 5 things at play. There's many things at play.
Wow.
And the more you can understand about how you created and how can we work with it to get the things to express well, what supplements do you need? Everybody has a supplement graveyard. A lot of people, I say, why are you taking that? Like, I don't know. I heard it on Sinclair's podcast or I heard it on
Right.
Huberman. Okay, but why are you taking it? I don't know. I thought it was good. Okay, you don't really need that. Or you know what? Go ahead. That could be beneficial to you. So, if you have Alzheimer's gene, like I'm increased risk. And so the things that are enemies there, saturated fats, high glycemic foods, so blood sugar, alcohol. And I make no excuses for it. I mean, I've talked about it on my podcast and other podcasts. I started drinking at the age of 14 and have a good have a good childhood. Lost my mother at an early age, so I went and I was going out, I had older friends, and I was going to bars at 14. Well, all of those things were impacting my genetics, increasing the risk down the road. So when I found out, I'm like over 50, I was 54 when I found this out 5 years ago. It's like, I have, and I didn't drink excessively. I've never had that issue or anything. I like a glass of wine here and there, but I cold turkey. I haven't drank in 5 years. I don't miss it. I would rather have my mind in my 60s, 70s, and
Right.
80s,
Yeah.
90s than have a glass of Malbec. So we look at these things, it's information you get to help you make choices around your quality of life and your health. And so
Hmm.
that's what it's about. So the DNA I can do on its own. The pH 360, I will coach off that all day long because it is a platform and it
Got
has
it.
all the information. Now, so I'll coach off of that, won't coach off of the DNA. It's not precise enough. If someone, this is why I do free consults. If someone says, like, the first thing I'll ask, what are you looking to achieve? If they say, well, I want to know, I have Alzheimer's in my family. I want to know, or I've had, a lot of heart issues in my family, cardiovascular problems. Okay, well then you definitely want to do DNA. And if then I have people say, I just want to know exactly what I should be doing. Then you went to pH 360. Someone says to me, like I had a new client last week when I did a consult with her, and she said, I want longevity. I am all about longevity. I want to know everything I can know. It's like, we do the two together. You have your blueprint, your user manual, we put it all together. So it really
Wow.
comes down to what you want, what you can afford, what you're looking to accomplish. And someone will say to me, I want DNA done because I want to know exactly what I should do. And then I go, and then that's not the DNA.
Mhm.
So that's why I always talk to people, just to make sure that they understand the differences and what I can provide in the different areas to help them
Yeah.
and coach them through it. And the beauty of understanding how you're created and what your unique needs are, we're typically trying to fit into our environment. Like me, trying to be calm and quiet. It's not
Whoops.
me,
That's
right?
that's
It's
not
not,
working.
no. And it like kept me down for a long time, apologizing or I'm sorry. Okay, so I didn't say things in the perfect way. I'm more reactive. Well, finding out that this is how it's created on adrenaline, testosterone, predominant hormones, I'm direct. I'm very reactive. It was great as a cop on the street, not so great in personal relationships, little pit viper. So I've learned to check myself before I wreck myself, but still be me. I like to get things done. I'm very action oriented, very competitive. No one likes to play board games with me because I like to win. Right?
Oh my
So they
gosh.
all make fun, like, so you're not trying to win here, are you? I love CrossFit. That's, all these things made sense to me why I was drawn to these things and why people didn't want to play. So, unless you're on my team. But so that's kind of how, when we embrace who we are instead of fighting it and tailor our environment to who we are, then you see people blossom. I hear people, oh my God, I feel like I have permission. I have permission to eat carbohydrates. I have permission to eat carbohydrate. I have permission. You have someone opposite of me that's very sensory overload. It's too much for them. They're called a sensor. The central nervous system, super overactive. And they have to have their alone time. They're very autonomous. I'm the opposite. And I still need my downtime, but nothing like them. They're the ones that like, I gotta go. And the friends are always like, oh, stay longer. They're going crazy because they're just right. So when we understand ourselves and we can communicate our needs biologically to other people, because this is what drives our personality. When you have like the personality tests,
Hmm.
they're all driven by this biology. Are we living like we should be? Because I'm a morning person, fired out of the cannon in the morning, 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, unless you keep me occupied, I'm coming down. And I should be naturally because I've been on fire all day. And you have other types that they need a very slow start to the morning. And here they're told you need to get up, get everything done in the morning, up at 4 a.m. And they're tired in the afternoon. They're wrecked by the afternoon when they should actually be prime energy. Like we kind of meet in the middle. I'm coming down, they're coming up. And they're tend to be a lot more calm. But they need a slow start to the day. When you stress these bodies, they start to store. They store when they're under stress. They can't lose weight. Their cortisol levels are crap. And these are people told, well, you need to exercise more. You should be hitting it harder in the mornings. You should be eating, cut all the carbs out. And these things are exactly what opposite of what these bodies need. And it can make them worse. I was living like one of them as a night owl with a slow start to the morning most of my life. Volunteered for graveyards as a cop when I started. Like, I became insulin resistant pretty quickly, eating overnight, like the worst things we can do. They're just out of sync with our bodies. And so as I found these things out, changed things around, and now I naturally have the energy to do what I want to do. But I lived opposite to how I was created for 54 years. So many other people are living opposite to how they're designed. And it just keeps you from being your most authentic, happiest, healthiest self. When you make even just a few tweaks, it's like heaven's open. Like, oh my God, I get it. You're in flow.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's just fascinating. I mean, let me just back up and tell you that you do great at my house on the holidays, just with everything you just went over. We play board games competitive to the point where, I mean, there's almost yelling and screaming.
Oh,
It was
I'm
funny that
coming next year.
you
Is that the
mentioned Malbec.
invitation?
Doors open. I'm starting to wonder if you're Italian too, on top of everything else. But
Colombian, Polish,
uh,
and German. Sorry.
man, you were so close to being invited. It was that close. But I mean, even when you mentioned Malbec, that's my wife's wine. But the my wife is a big fan of yours already.
Oh, really?
You sent me that episode to look at with Doctor. I think it was Cam.
Cam McDonald.
There you
He's
go.
the CEO and chief educator at PH360. If you want to understand more, like I said, I'm not the deep dive science. Go listen to Huberman at TS and Claire. Great, great podcasts that go deep into research and all. My research is my people that I work with and myself. I bring the everyday into the epigenetics for the layman so they don't have to look up all the terms all the time,
Sure.
and just actionable things that are actionable, and why the one size fits all approach for anything doesn't work for everyone. And the first two episodes of my podcast, episodes 1 and 2, are with Dr. Cam. And we talk about the 6 different health types. And people just get these aha moments like, oh my God, I think that's what I am. And I say, I caution you, because once you go down this rabbit hole of the PH360, you don't look at yourself or anybody else ever the same again. You're trying to figure anybody out.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's, yeah. But they're really two great. I recommend everybody start there, because that's kind of the basis of what I do. I haven't done a podcast on DNA yet, but I've been waiting for some research for the last year from my team, comparing to another company, to have that social media out there, because not all DNA tests are created equally,
Sure.
quality wise, component wise, for SNPs. And so I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks a specific episode just on DNA, how it's useful, where it might miss a mark, how to look for the best testing and what it can do for you, things like that.
That's great.
So
Now, in addition to all this coaching, you are getting ready to start a new business because you don't have a million other things going on right now, apparently. So you told me a little bit about that in the pre-interview. Let everybody else know. I mean, hey, this is your podcast. What do you have coming up? That's pretty huge.
yeah. So this is actually this week's podcast. I have her on. So it's with a colleague of mine who is uh, a licensed functional nurse practitioner. She and I have been kind of collaborating with some clients over the past year and a half. And she did my program to start with, and she saw how it moved lab numbers. And she said, all right, you're doing something. I need to work with you. And we started working together. And she's like, we're going to work together one day. So a year and a half later, we have just seen the need to have a functional medicine person that can prescribe, look at labs. I look at labs too. She just goes to a different level. She has specialties in so many areas. We can do thyroid hormones, mold, Lyme disease, gut health, cardiovascular, because we both like to do deep dives. But I stay in my coaching lane. I am all lifestyle. I don't try to be a practitioner. I don't want to be one. That's her. And she doesn't want to go into what I do with all the lifestyle, the food, the movement, mind, all of that. So and then we've seen programs that are so outrageously expensive out there that people can't get help and people need help. So right now she is licensed in, I think, 5 states now. She just picked up Iowa yesterday. She's got Texas, Colorado, North Carolina, South Carolina's coming, Maine's coming. She just got Iowa, so we're at 6. And she's working on all 50 states to be able to prescribe. She can also work as a consultant if someone has a practitioner, but they want more input from another practitioner to be able to say, I think this person might need this. I think when we collaborate with others, instead of looking at it as competition, when you collaborate, you're doing better for the client, right? Or the patient. So
100%, 100%.
we put that
Absolutely.
together, and then we see what I do is completely personalized as well. Neither one of us look at anybody as a cookie cutter. It's all personalized health, which they're saying, this is the future. It's here and we have it. I have it. We have it, right? You can't get much more personalized than working with your genetics. So it's going to be called Life Code Wellness, and we're going to be launching it. Our target is March, and she's on the podcast this week, and that's what we're talking about. Why, wanting to help as many people as we can, because people are just flailing out there trying to figure out what the hell is right for me, because something works for a few days or a couple months and then it doesn't. So
Right.
what is it that I need? So it's fusing cutting edge epigenetics and functional medicine for the ultimate in affordable personalized health. We will have different tiers so that there's something for everybody, but the basis of the programs will be her functional medicine. It will include all basic lab tests, and we do a deep dive, and very deep dive, and then my PH 360 program. And then there's the options for adding on the DNA if you want to do that, or the epigenetic age testing. There's all different ways you can continue to work with us. And then, of course, you could work with us separately. But that's what we're coming out with the Life Code. And we're super pumped about it because
awesome.
there's really nobody's doing it to the level we're going to be doing it. So.
That's great. Now you're going to continue on with your own personal coaching then?
Absolutely.
I assume, right?
Absolutely. Because not everybody needs that, right? So it needs the two together. They already have a practitioner they're happy with, and they just want to know, what the heck do I need to be doing to feel my best, perform my best, be my best in a relationship. Relationships change when you understand yourself more. I love to work with couples. That's really fun. They get their aha moments, like, oh my God, now I get you. There's an understanding you gain, not just by understanding yourself, but by understanding the other person on a biological level, why they do the things they do, why they think the way they do. You have people that get some that are very social and very loving and need that connection. And then others, their spouse might be leaning more towards the autonomous, more brain powered, and they're not that affectionate. Well, the two take it personally. Like, geez, you have to be all over me every 5 minutes. And the other one go, well, I just want some love. Well, when you understand that one needs a break and the other needs the affection, you can start giving and allowing in a whole different way. So we see relationships completely change too, for the better.
So your coaching covers a lot of levels here.
Lots of different levels.
A lot of different things.
Yeah. I have Ann Larson. She's the big relationship person at PH 360 headquarters. And she does all the educational work on there. And she's fantastic. She's a counselor, a therapist, marriage. She's done it all. And I've had her on 2 podcasts. One of hers was in my top 5 last year. And actually 3 out of 5 on relationships last year were in my top 5. And then another one with a client he's lost 75 pounds or 70 pounds. He's at 70. Turned his labs around, probably saved his life.
Wow.
And and then B Minerals was my number 1 podcast. And then I don't tout products on my podcast, but I will tout B Minerals because they're fantastic. And that ended up being my number 1. But then 3 out of 5 were about relationships. We don't know how to connect. We don't understand ourselves, but yet we expect people to understand us. And then you have technology in where we're also stinking disconnected. People want to know how to relate to people in a personal way. And so when we bring in who you are and you own it and can explain that to family, friends, coworkers, I can do this corporate wise too. No one's using it yet, but over here in the States, nobody is doing it. but we want to bring that in too at some point with anybody that wants to. But when you have coworkers understand why they're great in their positions, or maybe they should be better in a different position, but to understand how to work together. In my business, I have my podcast manager. And shout out to Liz. I couldn't survive without Liz. And she's a different health type than me. I have
Okay.
my health type. Christina is another health type, very data oriented. Information. I don't keep data. I don't have time. I have things to do. But I'm the idea person. I'm
Right.
all about ideas. But everybody that is working with me in my space, we all have profiles. So we all know who who is best at what. I have another friend, a colleague actually, and he does body code and emotion code work. It's all energy. And so we had put programs together as well because people were kind of missing that. They're holding traumas and just these energies that don't serve them. And so we had a team meeting, and one of the people, one of the ones is what we call a diplomat. And again, that's the very information driven. They're very thoughtful. They're slower, right? I'm da, 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 da. It, idea after idea, but formulating how to put it together. No, that's why I need other people. And then I had another gal who was doing some marketing for me. She's a sensor, super quiet. They're all system, process, logic. And then Kelly, who does the emotion and body code, he's a guardian, and they're your mama bears and papa bears. They just want to take care of everybody, right? So three of us, two were online, three of us were in the same place, and the diplomat, myself, and Kelly. And the one gal who was the censor, she was online. And we get done talking about a plan of where we want to go. And I said, all right, I got to type these notes up. And she's like, already did it. And it was all all in line, like outlined perfectly. I was like, of course, because that's where her brain went. She has to line it up, be logical. Perfect. Then I said, well, let's come up with pricing. So my diplomat, Steph, that was with us, with Kelly and I, she said, oh, well, I'll start a spreadsheet. And I'm like, oh, God, that's too much detail. She's like, oh, I got it. She kicked out this spreadsheet right down the thing. And then as we're looking at the spreadsheet, Kelly comes walking out of the kitchen with tea for us. He brought, right? Mr. Caretaker. And he said, I got this special herbal tea. It's supposed to be for immune system and healthy. And I brewed this up in the back. Here, let me help you. And I said, oh my God, this is like the epitome of each of the health types,
Right.
how we all just flow and take care of each other and the business in different ways. But it makes for such a cohesive group because we all have input in the different ways.
So now
So
I'm
that's
I'm
how you,
wondering, I'm wondering because you know these health types. Okay.
yes.
So
Uh-huh.
do you sort of take that knowing and knowingly attract these different health types to you to fill out your roster? Or is it just
Um,
like I just found out who this person is and oh, they happen to be this health type, so I guess I have to figure out how to, make that mesh.
I think it's more of when I did interviews for different team, or one actually, Steph as was actually a client, and her husband's the one that lost the 70 pounds.
Oh
And
wow.
she's like, I want to do this. And so she's actually in the class for DNA. I have another client that just loved this, and she's in the class for DNA, and she's doing the PH 360 certification at the end of this month. I have another client that's doing the PH 360 at the end of this month. Like people just, it's, but as far as me attracting, I think it's when I'm looking for someone who's very detail oriented and very much the planner, I'm probably not going to be looking like for another activator like me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So it is
Okay.
in there. It is in there. You do
It's
kind of
in
have it.
there. And sometimes I'm surprised. I'm like, wow, like Liz, I thought was a diplomat and she's a connector. And she said, well, I'm actually more social when I'm comfortable as I get to know you because I'm like, you're too quiet. And she said to be a connector because they're the people. But then as I've gotten to know her, she's like blossomed into it. But she has a very, and the connector, because I have a very connector brain, we don't, it's harder to focus. I have to
Right.
have complete quiet. I like to have my social and then I can buckle down and I have to have complete quiet or I can't focus. If you look at the books on my bookshelf, there's bookmarks in every one of them where I get what I need and then I move on. I have like 5 audiobooks that are open, right? Because
I
it's
got
a
you.
next shiny thing. But it was also really great as a cop because you can see outside the box. The connectors are great problem solvers. because they can multitask, see things in just different ways than other people. And you have down at the bottom of the circle, what we call the crusader. These are a lot of your CEOs. Cam's a crusader. You'll hear him talk about that. They are goal driven, dopamine hounds. Like, put the blinders on, they're going towards it. There's no pulling back. They're going to achieve that damn goal. Like, that's where they are. But they're very future focused. I'm not, right? I'm opposite. I'm like, I'll plan if it's fun. You ask me what my business plan is for 5 years. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe no, I'm only going to be 60 this year. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. It's terrible.
If people are not watching the video version and they couldn't see your face just now, you looked so distressed. You were like, 5 years? No.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, I see where things take me because I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Am I going to go ski tomorrow? Game time decision. I don't know. Okay. I look at weather. I plan as much as I can. Like, I plan the fun things. Then the things that are harder, I avoid the planning because it's just not how I am. It's not fun to me. But they're great with a vision. Now, they need activators to put that into action because that's what we do. We're action oriented. Then you have your diplomats. Diplomats can engineer a plan. Great. You crusaders, tons of engineers in there. Triathletes. It's the only time they can get out of their head. The distance things, right? They get in, they just go. Gets them out of their mind, shuts that mind off that is constantly active and thinking. When you understand that, I'm dating a crusader and future focus, worrier, has to overanalyze everything. And I'm like, dude, let's like, you don't have to analyze that. And he's like, he'll say to me once, that was very direct. I'm like, of course. But he's like, I never have to worry what you're thinking. I don't have to ask things, like, you talk about it. And so we have found, we find like this harmony with where we are, which I typically don't do well with crusaders, but he has the ability to take things in and learn more instead of being super structured, which is a good thing. And I think that's the only reason he's the only crusader that I've chilled with for any amount of time. Because usually I'm like, oh, the overthinking drives me crazy.
Wow.
So we just make fun of it. And he makes fun of my directness and laugh about it. And I think, so it goes into all different areas of life. And, I look at people and I'm always, like I said, you can't get it out of your head. I mean, for 5 years, I've been meeting people and going, oh, that's what they are. That's what they are. And so you see how you can work with people.
I was going to say, anybody who's listening to this episode is already going, so am I a crusader or am I a caretaker or, who am I? But now, because you can have different personality traits that match different characters.
We all have parts of people. All of them in us,
yeah.
Right? You have some diplomats that, again, are supposed to be super chill, have a very heavy activator traits. And they're like, but I want to get up in the morning. And they're like in my face. And they're like, we're like, you're doubting Thomas's. Yeah, that's bull. And then you eat crow and realize, okay, after I thought about it, you were right. We're just so quick to react. So you'll see some of these traits come out and you have to nurture that and say, well, maybe you'll do better working out in the morning after you're optimal, but right now it's taxing you more. So you have to kind of work with these things that in their brain.
So is this part of the coaching? Yeah. I mean, do you kind of put people into who they are because that helps, with what they need and how to approach them?
Yeah,
and
that's
how to
the
teach
profile.
Them? Is that the deal?
That's the PhD profile. You'll find out what your health type is. And then you'll have all the precise recommendations. Now, just because you're a certain health type doesn't mean you're going to have the same profile as another guardian, right? So there's degrees within the circle of each, okay? They like increments of 5. So I'm what's called a 145 activator. I'm on the cusp of connector. Like I said, it's a huge connectory brain. And I have my BFF is also a 145 activator. And I've done her DNA and our DNA is so similar. So we are both in each other's face. Like, we interrupt each other all the time. So when you're like interrupt, I'm like, I don't care. That's what we do. This is how I roll. So I'm not offended by it. And so we're very similar, but yet we have different health things. Our bodies are very different. So like, I'll say, well, look up this recipe in your profile. She's like, I don't have it. Because it has, there's a food in there that right now isn't right for her. So, and it may have different recommendations as far as workout times, eating times. Like, So we're different. Even though we're the same number, our bodies are still individual. So there's no two pH 360 profiles that are identical.
It's amazing how individually specialized this whole thing is.
That's what it's about. This is truly personalized health. Truly personalized health.
Truly personalized health.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
It's impressive. It really is. So you,
Fun.
people can find out about your coaching and about all of this stuff we've been talking about um, for on your website. I mean, what's the best place for them to go? Normally I do this at the end, but we're talking about this
Sure.
now, and I want to ask you a couple other questions, but I don't want to lose this
Sure.
train of thought with somebody if they're like,
Sure.
click and moving on. So
Yeah.
where do they go to find out about the 360 and your coaching and everything else?
Yeah. So you can go to my website, which is Healthy Awakening, no S, one awakening, healthyawakening.co. There's no M on the end. So
Got it.
healthyawakening.co. My podcast, again, I talk about the pH all through the podcast. Go to episodes 1 and 2. You'll get the intro of it. You'll start to, it'll kind of suck you in and help you understand a little bit more where it's coming from. And that you can go to the podcast website. It's also attached to my business website, but it's everydayepigenetics.co. Again, no, not .com. So you could hit both of those to find out about what I do.
Awesome. Okay. I could ask you 1,000 more questions, but unfortunately, it's just a podcast. So I may have to ask you to come back on so we can talk about some of this other stuff more specialized, But let me. Where am I on time here? I'm dying to know something, and I want to talk about the
Go for it.
podcasting part of it because this is the Podcaster Nation. So I'm like
Yeah.
obligated, by my
Yeah.
own rules that I
Bring it on.
created to do this. So,
My
but
labor of love is my
but I'm
podcast.
dying to know. Okay. And if I'm dying this bad to know, then somebody else out there wants to know the answer to this. So in maybe 5-10 minutes or less, if you can,
Mhm.
how does somebody go from being a 5 foot spitfire New Jersey cop to doing you know
I do.
certified epigenetics human performance coaching?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if I can think of two opposite ends of a spectrum that you could throw at somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of
Yeah.
there's got to be a story there, and maybe we need more time, and we have to come back on a different
I can
episode.
make it
But
quick.
if you
Yeah.
can,
I
I'm
can make
dying
it.
to know. I mean, how do you
Sure.
get into this?
Sure.
What's that like?
All my life, I was like this short, chubby girl. Yeah, you wouldn't know it now. I mean, like 116 pounds now, but I was not always like this. I mean, I remember I started dieting at the age of 12, and I just was never like anybody else. And I always felt different. I looked different. But I never felt like I'd be like completely belonged. So I was always trying on the exterior, right? Let me lose weight. Lost my mom at a young age. So that made me different. There were so many components in my life and all I wanted to do was be like everybody else. And if I could go back, when people say, if you go back and tell your young self, what would you say now? I'm like, just be you, embrace the different, like fly your flag, whatever. But I always did what I had to do to fit in. And that was that big connector influence, the people pleasing. Everything I did all my life was to try to fit in and be
Mm,
what I thought other people wanted instead of me,
okay.
which really affects the self-esteem and everything. And that affects weight, what you're eating, hence the drinking, right? Just things like that, poor relationship choices, going from different career to career, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. At the age of 36, my best friend died of cancer. And 2 weeks later, 9/11 happens. I'm like, what am I doing here? Now I was like at 130 some pounds, so I still wasn't little. But I thought I felt great. As far as I knew, I thought I was feeling great. 9/11 happens, and I had traveled a lot. I was in the corporate world at that time. And I thought I could have been on one of those planes. I'm gone like every week. I need to do something to make a difference because I've always been the fixer. So I
Mm,
thought, okay, I'll fix things in a different way. Get into the Aurora, Colorado Police Academy. Over 400 of us applied, 38 of us got in. Um, and that was a 27-week academy. And, I didn't know at the time I had celiac disease. So I could be eating all these things I would eat. I graduated with the highest overall fitness score, and I was the second oldest in the class of all the men and women. I had the highest. So, and the come to find out, activator is the athlete, the natural athlete. Like I'm competitive again. So I'm living this life, but yet I'm up late at night. I start working graveyards, like totally out of my flow. This was in Colorado. Get married, moved to hold on to your hats here. I moved to a little town in Montana. Talk about never feeling like you fit in. I did not fit in with the good old boys.
Okay.
And I spent 12 years of hell at that department before I retired, never fitting in. It just wasn't good. So the amount of stress that I was under, again, I would be up late at night, like CrossFitting at night when I should be calm. I should have been doing all that before 4:30, not at 6:30 at night with CrossFit Endurance. And so I developed autoimmune diseases. And I had a lot of cortisol issues, like my adrenals constant. I was tired all the time, but I'm like, I'm fit. And then and I'd been divorced for a long time, moved back to Colorado in 2018. Like, I need my people, I need my place. I love it here. Outdoors, right? I'm made for movement with adrenaline and testosterone. I need to move. I have my backyard as a playground here, right? I've got the mountains, like I belong here. So I came back. I retired at 50. And I worked public housing my last 10 and a half years as a cop. So I ended up specializing in a lot of crimes against children. So stress was killing me, and I was living completely opposite to how I was created. Come back here, starting over with a coach. I'd started my coaching business because, like, what is wrong with me? And then I found out celiac, and just started changing ways of eating, just little by little, working with a naturopath, feeling very much on my own, alone in doing all of this. So I thought, I want to help others. There's got to be a career in this, because I don't know if I'm going to last the 20, right, as a cop. And I went online and looked up careers in food and fitness. Health coach came up, and I was like, okay, I don't need a degree in that. It was a 1-year online school at Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I enrolled there. That started me on my journey. And I coached people on paleo because that made a difference for me. Moved back to Colorado. And in 2019, I went to the Paleo FX conference down in Austin, Texas. I felt like crap because I kept getting worse. And my people, I kept saying, we shouldn't just feel good. Everybody should feel amazing. I want to take that next step. What is it that can help? And that's where I found the DNA group, and that I ended up with.
Wow.
And it made so much difference to me to see how I was created, that not only am I adrenaline testosterone, but I have very overactive neurotransmitters genetically. And things that I was doing were making that even worse, making it harder to sleep because my brain didn't want to shut off. And so things started coming together. Poor methylation. Why, when I found out I had Lyme disease, why I couldn't get rid of anything, because they were giving me things to deal with it, but I couldn't get it out of my body. So everything was building up, and I was just one big toxic thing. So all of this started to come together, and that's how I just kind of fell into it. And then I fell into the genetics. And then in 2020, end of 2020, found the PH360 and brought it up to the next level. So I just keep looking for more, so that's the long story short. But yeah, just all through all my own health and inauthenticity struggles all my life. Now I just say, this is who I am. I own it. Take it or leave it. It's okay.
So all throughout your life, you've basically been, trying to get better, but sabotaging yourself without knowing it.
Had no idea.
And you've found all these things out now. And yeah, that's amazing. I mean, most people don't get to have that realization. They just keep sabotaging themselves till it's over.
Keep going. Yep. And then wonder what
I know
the
a
hell
little
happened.
about that.
I tried everything they said to do. And, doctors aren't trained in nutrition and they're sure not trained in going into depth into the genetics unless it's a very specialized
Sure.
practice or medical genetics, things like that. Because you can do pharmacogenomics. I can do that panel, which will show potential reactions with different drugs genetically, things like that.
Wow.
So yeah, there's so many different areas you can go with it.
It's amazing. This entire realm that you're in right now is absolutely fascinating to me. And I'm
It is.
just, I could probably, like I said, I could talk to you for another hour at least about all this stuff because all these questions are popping up in my head, but I got to get to other stuff. So
Do it. Bring it.
all right. Let's talk about the podcast itself. All right.
Okay.
With the time that we have left, let's kind of work on that. You've got, I mean, a successful podcast. You're 40 something episodes, 42, I think
42.
we decided, which is great.
42.
You've been doing it less than a year. You mentioned you have a podcast manager.
I do.
Okay. And that's not something we've been able to talk about on the show yet. So that's kind of a unique thing also. Um, what do you use your podcast for? Like, what's the primary purpose of your podcast? And how does the podcast manager fit into your overall game plan? What do they do for you, and how does it make it easier, and so on?
Sure. Sure. Why I started it. Well, let me say why I didn't start it. I wanted to do it for years. I've wanted to do a podcast, but it's fear.
You're not
Fear
alone.
of
Yeah.
putting myself out there, right? And people, oh, that's not right, or hammering on you. And then I'm going, you know what? Haters be hating. I needed to put it out because people need to know this exists. That what I do, that personalized health exists. And I said, I'll sacrifice myself for the better of everybody else do it. And the first, Cam made it very easy to record those first two with him. And I was like, I recorded 7 in a week last February and into March. And I was like, I actually love this. This is fun. And I get to talk about what I do and talk about how every decision we make, everything we do affects DNA in some aspect or lifestyle. And so I just wanted to bring it to the masses and also a way to let people know that there's help out there if they need it. And so many people need it. So it's really evolved into that. I mean, do I use it to get potential clients? Of course. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
But it was really to just get information out there that personalized health exists and you don't have to be that hamster running on that habit trail and getting nowhere on
Good
that
deal.
wheel.
So,
Yeah.
your podcast is sort of your teacher to other people, your instructor to folks, and also your salesperson for what you do, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
People see I'm legit. They see what I do is legit. I mean, I think that's a big thing too, because it's like epigenetics. Okay, well, everybody, I'm hearing all these new people out here doing genetic this, genetic that. It's all a scam. And I'm here to tell you it's not a scam. So I do have clients on there because I have several clients on and I have more coming on. I have a mother and her 2 daughters. They're all diplomats, all different numbers, completely different profiles.
Hmm.
And so they're coming on. I have another one. I probably saved his life with DNA. And he just did his 2 young daughters. And so he's going to be coming on. I mean, I just want people to see that there's real people out here. It's not all just research, but real people. That's who you want to hear. People you identify with, that I'm not alone in this journey that I'm
Yeah,
on, because I know for me, you felt very alone in a lot of times, like nobody got it.
yeah.
And so it's just say, I get you more than you even get yourself sometimes. As far as the podcast manager, Liz, oh God, I found her through a Facebook group of women entrepreneurs here in Denver. I interviewed 5 people and she was my last one. And I was like, she's it. It was a guy in Ireland that was a podcast editor who helped me because I was like, I'm not technical. I have no idea how to do podcasts. I just know I need to do it. Right. Just knew I needed to take action, but didn't know where to even start. And so he came on and did the editing, hooked me up with a guy to do my logo and intro, outro, all of that. And he said, you really need a podcast manager, like a VA, to do the social media posts because I don't have time and I still don't really know how to use Instagram well. So she does all of that. And so I brought her on for
Okay.
that. And then his price went up after that first month, like a lot. And I said, it's out of my budget. So I said, I knew she edited podcasts also. And I said, I would like to keep this in-house. I think you're great, easy to work with. She's also in Colorado. And she said, yeah, I can do it all. And the price was unbelievable. She undervalues herself, I'm telling you. And
Careful,
here
she's going to
on,
hear this, and then she's
oh,
going to want
I
to
hope
raise.
so. She knows that. And I was in such a panic because I get overwhelmed again really easily. And she's like, we have to do this, have to do this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm texting her going, Liz, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm stuck. And she said, I'll just email you what you need to do. It was 3 things that took me like 5-10 minutes. Right. So she's like, fine, let me hold your hand, calm you down. And she edits. We try not to edit much because I want it pretty raw, but sometimes I'll go, oh my God, screw that up. Liz, attention at that, But usually it just is what
Right.
it is. And she does all the show notes. When the episode drops, she does all plans for 3, the day before, the day of, and then a midweek social media to promote what's coming on the podcast with the clips and everything. And then the day of, she emails my guests, here's all the info so you can promote it. So and she's also working on Christina's and on the life code. She's doing the website. Like I asked her, hey, can you do this? She's like, on it. And then she's like, oh my God, how do you do this? She is just gold to me. I don't know where I would be without her. This podcast would not be with what it is without her. And so
That's
I'm
big.
ultimate professional. So I'm super, super grateful that she's been a constant on my team for almost, a year now.
That's big. That's
Yeah,
really
totally
big.
valuable because I don't have the time or the know-how. And people say, you can figure this out on your own. I can't, I don't want to. Why not pay somebody else that's their expertise so I can do what I do best, which is coach.
Sure.
And
I
yeah.
love it. I mean, I love the idea of the podcast manager. I really do. I know
Mhm.
most of the folks that, I talk to on a daily basis. If you tried to tell them that, the first thing they'd say is, I can't afford it. Because they're not making money off the podcast yet. They haven't monetized anything. Even if they're
Yeah.
doing a course, it hasn't taken off, yet.
Yeah.
So it's more of a money drain than it is a producer,
Yeah.
for
And I
most
get that.
folks. So
But I
it's
couldn't
tough.
afford not to do that.
I was going to
I
ask
couldn't
you.
afford not to do it.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
you. Now, did you have your business and your podcast going, and then you brought somebody in because it was overwhelming, or did you say, "Hey, I'm not
No,
even
I
going to go down
started.
this road. I'm bringing
Yeah. I
someone
mean,
in to handle it."
to his credit, can't think of his name right now. It's terrible. The guy in Ireland, the original podcast editor, he said, you need a VA podcast manager to help you with social media, do all that. And I remember I had to go into a little bit of debt to pay for all of it, a couple grand, but to me, it was worth it because all I do is I get to do what you do. We just get to talk and have fun. And then it says Zoom recording available. And I go, here you go, Liz. And she's like, here, check over the notes. And I approve it. I make changes or not.
Great.
I've very few changes unless it's like she perceived it in a different way than I wanted it presented, like in my mind, how I want it to go. So I'll kind of maybe alter the title or a few things in there. But other than that, she's typically spot on, gives me great feedback, great honest feedback. And I couldn't afford not to have her. For me, trying to figure out how to do podcasts, to take all that time to do social media graphics, like I can't even imagine. And we were only going to do it every other week, but then I was having so much fun with it. I'm like, oh, let's do it weekly.
Right.
And it's just so valuable. Like she pays for herself just in my sanity and being able to do what I love to get this out there. So I would say if you are somebody who struggles technologically like I do, or you want to put your energy into your business, into your podcast, do that and delegate because stress will kill you. And this to me would be a major stress that I don't want in my life. I have enough stress trying to run a business now, looking to add one on to get more people and keep doing the podcast, which I eventually would like to take on the road because I want to do more traveling. And I always meet people. I travel solo. I'll travel with people rarely, but I always meet people and cultures are different, even from areas in the States to other areas of the world and interview people, real people, about what's your lifestyle like? What's the lifestyle like via your culture? How does that affect us epigenetically?
Yeah.
What's your lifespan like over here? And I think it's just other ways to bring things in. So I have, again, I'm the idea person. I have all this in my head of what I want to do, and I will do it. But I have to have the team to do it. And for me to be sitting there, even on the road, trying to figure out how to put a podcast together, shoot me. Like, no.
I love it. I
So
love it.
I highly
Uh,
recommend, like I said, but even taking time to do social media, I is bad enough for me to have to put up Calendly links.
I know, right?
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
understand. I understand. I do
Yeah.
understand. I love it. I mean, I love that you took the risk, and I love that you just believe in yourself enough to go for it. Good for you. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised at all after spending a little bit of time with you. That doesn't shock me even a slight little bit. But I love that. That's fantastic energy and just,
Thank
optimism
you.
and so on. So good for you. That's
Thank you.
great. Now, it does also eliminate like the next 7 or 8 questions that I normally ask people because your manager handles all that stuff. So we don't have to worry about how you're handling your social media and this and that and the other because you hired a podcast manager that kind of went and took care of the answer to all those questions, which is great.
Yeah.
So let's just cut to my corny question that I ask everybody.
Okay.
And I keep asking it because I really do get awesome answers to it. So it's two-parter.
No
Um,
pressure.
nope, not at all. And I didn't tell you what it was. So, and the last time you heard my podcast, you forgot what this was. So you don't even know it's coming. So here she is on the hot
Okay.
seat right now. Okay. All right, Susan. So
My ball
what
seat.
what is what's your favorite thing about podcasting? And what's the thing that you hate the most about podcasting?
My favorite thing about podcasting, did you say?
What do you love the most about podcasting? What do you hate the most about podcasting?
I love podcasting because I I love to engage with people and I learn something every time. I definitely don't know everything about everything. Far from it. But the collaboration to just put information out there to people, the interaction, I don't, I've been on other podcasts that are like, send me 6 questions you want me to ask. I'm like, why don't we just let it flow? It drives me crazy, right?
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
do that
like
either.
organic. And that's the beauty that I love so much with my podcast. It's just having conversations with people that might see things in different ways or can offer things up that, I sit here and if you ever watch mine, I'm like taking notes. I'm going, oh, this is gold. And I
Right.
save I have a whole folder of my notes from podcasts and I go back and look because that's
Awesome.
what I do. And I'll invite people back often. I have a lot of repeat people that just affect me so much. My one, Kate King, has been on 3 times. She's going to be on next week. She's relationships. She's fantastic. And she just lives in Morrison, about an hour from me. So we're going to meet on the 21st for the first time
Nice.
in person. And it's just like the energy I said is going to be felt by the world. Look out. Because you just have people that you just, again, the energy. And that's what I love about it. It's just energy. What do I like least about it?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing I don't like about it. If I had to do all the social media and the managing of
There you
it,
go.
that would be it, which is why I don't do it.
Right.
But the podcasting itself, I could do this. I like Joe Rogan. I want your job, man. This is what the gauntlet's been laid down. It's what I love. And the biggest compliment to me, and I just had a client the other day. She said we are ending our session, and she's actually one that she just texted me and yesterday, and she said, I was going to do the PH360 course in August, but I'm doing it in February. She works for the federal government. She's like, I'm doing it. She has this full-time job and she's like, I've got to do this. I'm so excited. And thank you. And she said, I have one thing I have to say before we hang up. We're on a Zoom call. And she said, your podcast, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but you are a natural. And she said, it's if you've only been doing this for like a year and a half, and I go, no, April 1st will be a year. She's like, you would never know. She said, even from the first one, and I'm telling you, I was so nervous. I used to have a whole list of questions I don't want to ask. Like, just be raw. And that detective brain, I always have questions. So it's like that never shuts off. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I've heard that from so many people. It's just like, you're just a natural. You just roll with it. And that's what I just love it so much, because it truly is me from my heart, giving people as much information as I can give them to live a better life. And if I can reach one person, one of my new male clients heard Eric's podcast and he's like, I was Eric. How can you help me? And he's on as a full client. And,
Nice.
like, that's why I do it.
Nice.
If you can,
Nice.
if you can help one person, you've done more than most people have the rest of their lives. So, I mean, look at
100%.
you helping all of us doing what you do with the information, right?
I
You're
hope
helping
so.
in a different way, but
Yeah.
it's being helped professionally. With sometimes we feel like we're sitting out here in a sea of podcasters. Like, how do we get out there? How do we do this?
Yeah.
And to have support from you to put us out there and not be afraid anymore. Like, your impact is there as well,
Thank you. I
which is
appreciate
why
that.
probably why you saw so much support when you went down. That I could
It
just
was,
see on the
yeah,
videos, overwhelming support. And I was like, this
it
is
was cool.
a testament to you, right? It's a testament to you and what you do. So thank
Thank you.
you on behalf of us out here for doing what you do for us.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that. I mean, more than you'll ever know. I appreciate that. And the support was crazy. It really was. I did my wife's like, they're talking about whether or not you're going to make it right now. You realize that. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I said, give me my phone. I need to go live.
The oxygen and all, and I'm going like, look at this guy.
I know I got to go live because I'm not just going to send out, like words of, oh, I'm in the hospital. Everybody's going to look, yeah, right. You know what? No, I want them to know what happened because I'm asking all you guys to come on here and pour your hearts out and, tell me everything about you and to work with you. And so when I was wiped out, I wanted everybody to know the truth about what was happening. So it was important to me. But yeah, the reaction was great. It really was. It helped
This
me a
is
lot.
you being real, right? Raw, real, vulnerable. That's what
Yeah.
that's what reaches people. And another thing of advice I'd give to other podcasters, if you try to make it perfect every time, or try to you be just like, I have to look perfect or be perfect. Half the time you say, I don't usually look like this. I'll have bun up in my hair, ball caps on, whatever the day brings. Like, I might usually in workout clothes to take my one spot. Every once in a while, I might have my hair down and people are like, who the hell are you? You, right? Like, just be you. And people will pick up on that genuine you and what you're trying to get across. And that's going to draw people in. When you see some of them out there that are just like, you're like being plastic, robot. That doesn't, I mean, you might put out some good info, but I think you get more people just by being who you are. And that's what makes you different, is you.
Thanks. I love that. And you being you, of course, that's my last question to everybody, always, is do you have one piece of advice to pass on to other podcasters? And, since the beginning of this interview, you've been at least a step ahead of me, which is beautiful. So, I mean, one of the easiest podcasts I've ever had to do because I'm kind of just following you right now, which is great. It's been wonderful. Um, Thank you so much for all of that, for everything that you've put out there. Let me make sure I don't forget one more time. And you wanted to give out your email too. Let everybody know how they can contact you if they have questions, if they want to look up your programs, if they want to possibly work with you, get more information, best ways to reach you. And of course, we'll put it in the show notes, but tell anybody right now.
Yeah. Or if they have, I'm anything, everyday epigenetics is everything lifestyle and environment, how it relates to genetic expression. So as long as you're not somebody that's cookie cutter with nutrition, things like that, or everybody has to exercise the same way, if you have something different to bring, contact me also to come on my show. I love meeting people. Let's come on and have a great conversation. What can you bring to my people? Let's talk about it. So put that out there too. But my email is susan@healthyawakening.co. You can also reach me through my website there, which is healthyawakening.co. Or you can also go to my podcast website, everydayepigenetics.co. I'm on Instagram as Susan Robbins _epigenetic coach. And I'm also on Facebook, just as me. There's also Healthy Awakening Epigenetic Coaching. So that's my business page. And then you can also come on and follow me on my personal page, just Susan Robbins. And you can't miss me. I think I'm in front of a big mountain, an alpine lake on that one. So it's always going to be some picture outdoor in Loveland, Colorado,
Awesome.
USA. And yeah,
Awesome.
so reach out. I'm happy to entertain collaborations, anything. I think the more we can do together, we're stronger together.
Beautiful. That's what this is all about, what we're doing right here. The
Exactly.
rising tide raises all ships. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Susan, it's been more than a pleasure meeting you and just listening to your story and everything that you do. I've learned a ton.
Yay.
And my wife is going to want to watch this episode, I'm sure, because she loved the episode of, the sample that you sent me. Just she was like, wait, I got to hear the rest of that. I'm like, I got to go do a podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you really are something. And before we get off, I would be remiss. I agree with the feedback you've gotten. You do seem to be a natural, first of all. But
Yes.
the thing that stood out to me the most when I was listening to your episode that you sent me was you seem like you're having a great time.
I love it.
You just seem
That's
like you're
listen,
having fun.
it's not an act. Like
That's
I
beautiful.
literally love it and I could do it every day. I love it, love it, love it. But I do have to coach people and help people, so I can't do it just every day. But yeah, like I said, if Joe Rogan's got my dream job now that I do it, but I would like to do it in a different way, not just any old topic, but
Right.
around this type of a field and interview different people from different cultures. I think it's just fascinating. And yeah, I love it. So what you see with me, whether it's coaching with me, podcasting, any of it, what you see is what you get. And I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Some people are like, oh my God, get the hell out of my face. That's okay. It's right. It's just,
Awesome.
but for the
Awesome.
people who I am, that's great. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, folks, you have heard from the epigenetic Joe Rogan. Here is what we got. So, Susan, thank you so much for coming on and giving everything that you've given. It's been a real pleasure.
thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you reached back out. And I'm just so very grateful that you are where you are and you're still here with us and continued health to you, my friend.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, this has been another absolutely awesome episode of The Podcaster Nation. This is the podcast, like we've said 100 times, where the rising tide raises all ships. We're all here for each other. This is where we come together as podcasters and we get to be on the other side and we get to tell our story. So if I have not interviewed you yet and you have a podcast, make sure you contact me.
Do it.
Folks, this is it. And I love you all. So thank you very much for being here. And until next time.